Hey, this is Aaron with iBoard Repair and iPhone Data Recovery. Today I'm working on an iPhone 12. It was reported as just flat dying in the middle of use. It was already taken to a mall kiosk and they weren't able to figure it out. I haven't done anything to the phone other than take off the screen, and I want to start the diagnostic process with you guys. So let's see what it's doing. I'm going to go ahead and do my first step, which is when I'm working with no power phone, just to plug it into my DC power supply here and see what kind of amp draw we're getting from it. So let's do that. So we'll keep an eye on the DC power supply up here. Grab my probes, plug them into the battery connector, and let's see what it's doing. There's a lot of motherboard technicians that aren't great at actually diagnosing the motherboard, so it's good to learn these types of techniques. So I'll attach my probes here. Normal so far, there's no amp draw before I prompt to boot. I prompt it to boot. Now that looks like the beginning of a normal boot sequence. Let's see what it's going to do. It drops to 0. I'm going to hold this for a full 15 seconds and see if it gives me anything different. So it looks kind of normal so far if it continues to move upwards. If it stays right here, then that kind of indicates a missing power rail, but it's moving. But it should gradually raise, to the 200 milliamp, 3, 4, even 500. Staying at that 0.10 is not good. So I don't think this board is booting. It looks like it's trying to start to boot, but something's preventing it from getting to full boot. Okay. So I'm going to plug it into my amp meter here and see what it's doing when I have the battery plugged in. I already pulled out a good screen, so I'm going to plug in a good screen as well while I do this, just to make sure I don't get an Apple logo. So I use my USB amp meter here and I'll observe the current draw on that. I'm not getting any current draw from my USB amp meter. There was another diagnostic step I took prior to this, and that was plugging it into the USB amp meter. That was before I started the video. And that was actually, it was giving me something before, so it's curious. And oh, you know what, there it goes. So it's giving me what looks like a fairly normal amp draw. It's 1.5 amps, which on this power supply it normally does that. But I don't get any type of Apple logo. So that just kind of tells me that it can charge, but it's still not finishing a full boot sequence. So I'm going to pull this board completely out of the housing, and I'm going to, number one, check to see if it's a parts issue, and then number two, I'm going to start checking some of these power rails, because a stuck DC power supply amp draw like that usually means it's missing some power rail. On the 12, I see the boost line missing a lot of the time, but usually if that's missing, I won't get any amp draw whatsoever. But I'm curious if maybe if it's partially attached, if we'd get something like that. I don't really think so, but yeah, I'm going to pull this out and see what we can do. One thing before I pull this out, I'm going to make sure it doesn't connect to my PC in DFU or recovery mode. So it was actually smart for me to check to see if it was in recovery mode. It did actually go to recovery mode, but I didn't see any image on the screen, and you should normally see like a little plug and a screen, like a computer connector that would indicate it's in recovery mode. I didn't see that, so it kind of leads me to believe I have a image line problem. So I'm going to go ahead and diode mode the OLED connector here and see if we can find anything there. So it was a little bit strange if it's just no image that I didn't see like a more full amp draw, a more full boot sequence on my DC power supply. But I know the 12's kind of weird when you're trying to boot it from the power button after it's been unplugged. Sometimes it just likes to boot from the charge port. I'm not sure why. Anyways, it didn't seem like it was completely dead, so it may actually be booting with just no image. I'm going to pull up ZXW, and we do have a full like board view here, and we do get diode motor readings given to us, so we can just check with AR and see if we find anything missing. Okay. So 3-3 ground, 3-3 ground, 3-3 ground, 3-3 ground, 3-3-0, 3-3-0. Oh, 3-5-0, yeah. 3-5-0, 5-3-5. So that's just short. That's supposed to be 5. I'm getting ground. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the 10th line, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is short, PP7V3 display. So that makes a lot of sense. Display line is short here. I've never seen this display line short before. There is a display IC right on the inside of this, so that may have gone bad, or we may just have like a shorted capacitor somewhere. So that's great. That's almost surely going to be my problem. And it is, again, it's strange that I didn't see a full-on boot sequence going on, because at this point, this phone's probably just booting, and it probably just has a bad display line. So I did notice I have a display line underneath the sticker, where it's connected to that display line. So I can inject into here, and I can see where the heat's going. Because if we're extremely lucky, it could just be at the capacitor that's right here. But I'm almost surely going to have to split this board, and I'm sure it's going to be short on the inside. But it's still worth it to check, just in case it's like it's right here. Because then I wouldn't even have to split the board or take the board out of the housing. So this is a 7-volt line, so using the 4 volts. In fact, I haven't bumped that down. I don't need a full 4 volts. I'll use like 1 volt. I don't know if this will actually take freeze in the housing. It's pretty nice heat sink. Let's just see if it's the one capacitor on the front. Again, I don't really think it will be, but if it is, that would be lucky. It's really hard to tell. I was looking for heat right here. I didn't really see it. Um, I can't really imagine that it's going to be the capacitor here. I guess I'll just go ahead and like look at the capacitor, and if it doesn't look bad, I'm going to just pull this board apart. Should be like this one right here. Yeah, and honestly it looks fine. So I'm fairly confident that the problem is going to be on the inside. So I'll go ahead and pull this board out of the housing and then we'll get ready to split it. Okay, I have this board out and time to split it. I'll go ahead and pause the video while this is heating up, and I will come back once it's ready to pull. The 12 does take a little bit of time to heat up. Okay, so it may be close to getting ready to pull. I don't think it's ready quite yet, but it's almost there. It actually looks like it will come up. It can probably use a little bit longer heat, possibly, but no reason to really risk that. I don't think I'll pull any pads. Let's take a look. Okay. So this is for data recovery, but I may fix it either way, so I'd like to keep the pads and everything nice. I'm sure this phone's going to work normally after I fix whatever problem it has with the image. So I believe this was the image chip here. So I'll just clean this board a bit. So the really big guy is the main cap, and then there's two little caps down there that can also be causing it, but I do have a feeling it's just going to be the chip itself. That's just a guess though. I've never seen this problem on this board, so I really don't know. It could also just be the big or the little caps. So this should measure short on both sides, and it does. I'll inject into this cap, and I'll see if that cap heats up very quickly, then it's most likely the cap itself. Otherwise, I'm probably going to be looking towards the IC to see if that heats up. So let's see if the cap heats up or what. Oh, it's the little cap. So that little tiny cap right there is the culprit. It heated right up. I'll show it one more time just so it can be a little bit more clear if you weren't paying attention to that spot. So how strange, I've never seen this problem like I said. It's an odd one. So it's this little tiny cap in between. Keep your eye on that one. And right there, you already see it start to heat up. So that's very simple. I can just knock that cap off, and this phone will boot up with image. So now when I measure this big capacitor, it should no longer beep on both sides because the line is now clear. And no beep. Yes beep, no beep. So I'll grab a screen, a battery, and a charge port, and I'll just make sure this boots real quick. I think I'm going to go ahead and test the original screen to make sure that's still working. And hopefully we see an apple now. And there we got an Apple logo. It is in recovery mode. Yeah, so you can see it is in recovery mode. I think I'm just going to go ahead and try to kick it out of recovery mode rather than doing a full update. I'll go over to 3U Tools. It has a nice little feature that just kicks it right out of recovery mode. Exit recovery mode. And let's see if it boots up. Also check the passcode while it's doing that. She gave me 5 digits for the passcode, so hopefully it's a correct passcode. So it's just a black screen now. That's not a great sign. So let's just try that one more time, see what happens. Apple logo. And maybe it's just very, very dim, so I'm also going to try to plug in the proximity just to make sure that that's not what we're seeing. Because without the proximity sensor, it will go very dim as soon as it gets to full boot. So I want to make sure that's not the case if it's actually losing Apple logo. Yeah, it is actually booting. I just couldn't see it because it was so dim. So yeah, she didn't give me enough digits for this passcode, which I was afraid of. But let's just see. Maybe I'll add an extra 0. Oh, okay, add in an extra 0. Okay, so we're in. That's great. Trust this computer. And we're going to be able to pull data from this phone. So this was a no image iPhone 12. I haven't seen this yet, but it was pretty simple to figure out. I was able to kind of figure out that it looked like it was kind of booting. I was a little hesitant or not whether or not it was booting. I think it was probably because it was booting to recovery mode the entire time. That makes more sense. It was probably booting to recovery mode, and I couldn't really tell. But it wasn't going automatically to recovery mode when I plugged it into the PC. So I don't know. But either way, I was able to get it to go to recovery mode on the PC. And normally you would see an image on the screen at that time. And I didn't see any image on the screen, even though it said it was in recovery mode. So that led me to believe that I had an image line problem. And just doing a diode mode check on the connectors showed me that shorted line. And when once I removed the cap that was causing the short, it was able to boot. I'm getting a temperature sensor warning now, but that's because I have no bottom board connected. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a jig. It's going to connect the bottom board, and then I'll be able to pull data from this, and it will be no problem. The customer will be very happy. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to reball this one or not yet, but it's a possibility. So maybe I'll come back with a second video for that. But thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.